Still sane, Exile?
Welcome! One of my most requested videos has been to create a build optimized for trade and more aspirational gear. So here we go. As you can see here, this is my boss kills and my clear speed with my comparatively trashy solo self-found gear. The gear in the planner has perhaps 6 times more damage and a whole lot more movement speed and damage and better in every way. So I would like to start as usual every video to show the rotations for the build. First of all, overall this is not a poison burst build, though when you have this good gear as in the planner, you can probably simply spam poison burst with no problem whatsoever, if you want. But until that point, for clear, you have to build your plague bearer using poison burst. As soon as plague bearer is built and you don't miss the mobs, it will auto refill itself and you can just go blast, blast, blast. This works in the way that poison support supports bursting plague, which explodes, which poisons, which refills the plague bearer itself because it counts as a separate skill. So that's it for clear. As soon as you hit a boss or say a harder event or where you're forced to stand still, such as a ritual, you will always want to have a vine arrow up. This is both crowd control and a damage multiplier to your poisons. Then toxic growth is the strongest skill in the build. You want to blow toxic growth up with the strongest possible poison. That is usually plague bearer. So ideally, since plague bearer will charge itself, you can just go on the boss, keep your vine up, your growths up. As the boss spawns, pre-cast curse, firestorm, and go. Pop your plague bearer, everything will explode, it will do tons of damage on the debuffed boss, and if it all works and the boss gets hit by enough pustules, plague bearer will refill itself, and you can just keep going. Toxic growth, plague bearer, toxic growth, plague bearer, toxic growth, plague bearer. That is the highest DPS you can do as shown in the intro. Furthermore, try to cast Toxic Domain if you have it. To have all these skills I mentioned requires you to have 1 or even 2 unset rings in your gear. So you absolutely don't need all of these things. The Firestorm is to do the absolute most damage you possibly can, but honestly, with this kind of gear or even my SSF gear, the bosses die in seconds and it's not hardly even worth the trouble. I'm just saying it because this is the perfected DPS rotation. With that out of the way, let's go through what I think is the best gear for each slot. I've not made the most insane, unattainable corruptions everywhere and so on, but rather something realistically mirror tier to aspire to. And starting with the bow, it is simply all the fizz mods, crit chance, attack speed, skills. I have a separate clear bow as well, a Gemini with additional arrows. Quiver, simply all the good mods, crit, fizz damage, skills, attack speed. The accuracy could be a desecrated mod. Again, I didn't want to put all the most unlikely stuff in there, but there are some very good mods. However, having accuracy somewhere is not bad either. So, either way. Perfect energy shield helm, crit and some resists. And in the helm, I think in the end it will be best to socket area of effect, because that works on everything we have and is really, really good. There are runes for it. For the weapon, I did check now with the proper stat weights and perfect gear, and indeed extra as chaos damage is better both at my normal gear level and the mirror tier level. So it's probably always best to have extra damage as chaos in all your sockets, unless you need the additional arrow and so on. Body armor, simply stat stick, max deviation, resists deflection. Maligaros, and I include these in the build. You can remove them and reshuffle a whole lot of points like in the previous build and have crit damage in the tree, but I think this is best because it's such insane stat budget to get the crit for free. And another argument for not having maxed crit is that Plague Bearer does not crit, so having a light investment in crit and a heavy investment in other things, I think will be best in the end. But it's also possible that for pure boss killing, it's better to go full crit damage, because this setup has too much crit chance. You can see 90-ish%, and since crit poisons overwrite weak poisons, you don't need 90% crit chance to saturate a boss with maxed crit poisons. So crit over a certain level, I do not know the breakpoint, will do nothing on bosses on average. It will make it more consistent, but on average there is a breakpoint where crit chance does not do anything, since we hit so many times with the toxic growths and so on. But Maligaros, your crit damage bonus is 250 on top of having some evasion and high crit chance and some minor attack speed, and dex is just really high budget and allows you to free up so many points in the tree. I will get to it later. So I think it is the overall best item. Boots, here is one of the more special things. It's one of those desecrations where it has 100% increased effect of socketed items. I just hacked it on and slapped extra movement speed on, as if it had 3 runes and the effect worked. So this could instead be the runes for increased penalty reduction movement thing. If you have 3 of those runes, this is an alternate thing I'll show briefly in the tree. You could drop the Pathfinder Ascendancy Running Assault, take 6 more skill points, make sure to also pick for 4 of the points Unhindered Suffering, which will give you 20%. This all in all, when you have all the stuff and 3 of those runes in Corrupted Boots with that mod, which is undoubtedly expensive, you can reach 100% reduced penalty and not need Running Assault and get 6 skill points instead. Again, you have to waste 4 of the skill points to take Unhindered Suffering or fix it in some other way to reach 100%. On top of course, Anointing Spray and Pray, which gives 8%. But that is an option you can do. Since I have not tried it, and we do have 50 plus 25 less, so we have 75% less from Mobility Gem and Running Assault, I left movement speed there, which will always work, and there is a fair chance this is simply better. But it could be that the other one is best. It's a very minor change, I just mentioned it. This one has movement speed. You can have movement speed penalty reduction instead. The amulet, since we don't need crit damage, we free up 1 slot to fix the attributes. It can fix a resist as well. And the amulet is more or less the only item where you lose out on anything when you use Maligaro. Because the quiver fills its slots anyway without having crit damage. Because you need attack speed and so on anyway. But here it's an item where we lose 1 modifier. But it still feels very efficient to have Maligaros and lose 1 modifier on 1 item. Plus the gloves themselves, of course. But rings are just stat sticks with damage, life, evasion, always. Nothing special. Again, go for unset rings, at least 1 if you want to fit all the stuff. To fit the resists with 2 unset rings requires pretty much everything to be perfect, so it might not be realistic, depending on your budget. For belt, of course, Headhunter, and the other good options are Rislatha and the Darkness Enthroned with Poison Magnitude for bosses. Also slapped Poison Magnitude on the gloves. Attack speed is good as well. Charms, I always kept Stun Charm and Freeze. Rite of Passage, Cat. Flasks, whatever you prefer. I like 30% recovered instantly when you don't have a utility belt. And overall reduced charges used is the best suffix, but this is SSF stuff. Jewels is probably what I spent the most time looking at. And I looked at the Radius ones, I looked at the From Nothings, I looked at the Megalomaniacs, and you can't really beat the perfectly rolled Sapphire, because they have insane stat budget with Energy Shield, Crit Chance, Magnitude, and Damaging Ailments deal 7% faster. Each of these are almost like a notable in themselves, and then of course whatever corruption you can get on them. Megalomaniac, if perfectly rolled, will be really good. I don't include it because it's simply not realistic that everyone should have the same Megalomaniac, but you can just bring up the power report in the tree, sort the nodes by DPS, and just make a search for the top 10 or so. And that should beat the Sapphire. So that's it for set 1. Then we have set 2, and here you want Crest of Ardura for the blink. This can be corrupted to 61% CDR. It's the highest that was on trade, at least. And you can have 20 int, and you can socket 10 strength. The main weapon I use at weapon swap for overall is simply a spear with attack speed, dex, and strength, if you can get. Mine does not have strength here. For the weapon swap, I have described it in the notes, so you can look it up. I did not see a way to add a third weapon swap. So, if you want the weapon swap for the absolute max damage, swap to Wicked Quill, and this can also be corrupted to 31% or more to inflict Wither. Swap to Effigy of Cruelty, which can also be corrupted to give 4 stacks instead of 3, if you find on trade. Don't need any of them to be perfect, I'm just stating the best possible here. You can socket dex, strength, int as you need in these to adjust your weapon swap points, but you can have spell crit in the Wicked Quill. And the link is Firestorm, Overabundance, Spell Echo, Concentrated Area, Pinpoint Critical, and if you happen to have 6 link you could possibly put Rapid Casting, but it does make it very expensive. And to pre-cast all this, I had to actually use a mana pot with instant mana refill. Otherwise, the mana wouldn't regen fast enough. So keep it in mind, if you want to do absolute perfect boss DPS, get a mana flask, instant refill, and you have to spam it a few times as the boss pops. to get your mana up and precast the Firestorm, precast the Toxic Domain, precast your Curse, and then be able to blast. And it is overkill. The bosses with this kind of gear would die in a second or two. And I'm just saying it because it is the best I have found. If anyone has an opinion on a better spell than Firestorm, and this is 2 Firestorms because of spell echo and overabundance, so there are literally 2 concentrated area Firestorms spamming debuffs as fast as they can on the target. This does hit a few withered stacks, like 3 to 4 with this kind of percent, I think. And it fills up the crit weakness. The crit weakness with this good gear is almost not even needed, but since it's so high, but for any kind of realistic gear, it will be a big damage buff. So I've added it in the notes. You can just grab it here. I saw no way to add it to the items. And now on to the skills. I have found a couple new things when I looked through everything in trade. And the first thing is that on Blink, if you, like me, want to maximize the mobility when you have really good gear, you have Dialas in Blink already and cooldown recovery. You can also add Uthred's Augury, which gives +3 skill levels to a skill with exactly 2 other supports. This fits perfectly here, and this must be one of the best uses for this gem. And this will give you a level 21 to 25 Blink at least, which gives you better cooldown, better range, and so on. So this seems really nice. It's from the expedition boss. I am going to farm it. Ghost Dance is one I would really like input to. I know nothing else than compressed duration. This carries the defense for the entire build. It's very important. I know some people follow the build and think, nah, this energy shield thing, it's not for me. I run the proper evasion life, but no. This combined with the energy shield helm and subterfuge mask carries the entire defense. Almost. Despair. Simply added a 6 link for prolonged duration. Don't have to use this if you don't have strength for it, but this is the best link. Nothing new. Poison Burst, and here I have the link for bosses, or assuming you actually have a good multi-arrow bow. So there is heft, there is mobility, you have the full movement, the freedom of movement. No need for multi-shot like in the previous starter build. Pinpoint critical combined with Maligaro's gloves becomes an absolutely insane gem, because it gives you 60% more critical hit chance with no penalty. Maligaro simply sets your critical damage to its fixed amount anyway. Wind Dancer, you have some options here. I like to have it for CC and blind and some damage. You can make this full damage if you want, and then it actually quite reliably kills whatever hits you. But this way you have blind, you have maim, which means you get hit, the enemy will be pushed back, they will be snared, and they will be blind, they will be less likely to hit you again if they can even reach you, and then some damage that might kill them. But you can go all out on damage, and that actually makes it fairly strong in killing stuff. Toxic Domain, this is something I've not tested super much, but this works really well, and there might be optimizations to be done, but I like this setup. Escalating poisons to guarantee that it has its own poison, with corrosion, so that this skill can strip the armor for your toxic growths. Crit, of course, because yeah, with this build it's the best support gem. Long fuse, very good for this, no drawback, and deadly poison for strong damage. The Plague Bearer, since I have stolen all the Diala and good stuff for Blink, Plague Bearer has the self-refilling version here. You can take Dialas and put it here if you don't use Blink or if you don't care that much about optimizing Blink. But I like it this way. You can do as you please. But keep in mind, Poison, Bursting Plague, together self-refills Plague Bearer for clear. With this good gear, you can probably drop it all together though and just blast Poison Burst if you want. This is still a bigger AoE, so I'm quite sure it's still worth using. Toxic Growths, fully optimized for damage here. Concentrated area to make the spread tighter. Pinpoint critical again because the insane value. Long fuse, great value. Heft, one of the few remaining that work really well. And Arakalis, because when you use your growths, they will usually be poison stacked already. On your other skills, Arakali will simply not be stacked when you hit and will be kinda useless. But here, or on Toxic Domain, it's pretty great. If you like Pin, I like Pin. You can drop Arakalis and have Pin. This roots bosses, rares, everything in place. I like it early on. Once you have good enough gear, they're gonna die instantly and Pin will probably be a waste. But it's a very solid option instead of Arakali. Vine Arrow, nothing has changed. It is as a damage multiplier. Always keep it up. Swift Affliction for more damage. Then it's just area, duration, cast it faster, more debuff. Shield Charge, here's one that has some of the most interesting changes. So I swapped so that you have your bow in weapon set 2 and the shield in weapon set 1. This allows Shield Charge to use Rigwald's Ferocity for more attack speed since Shield Charge scales. I also got a tip, thank you very much, that Rage 3 is an amazing support for Shield Charge. It both causes them to give you Rage on hit, which will decay quickly, but it's nice. But it also has 15% more attack speed while not at maximum range, which is always. So amazing support gem. Rapid attacks 3 since we don't care about the damage, and Steadfast for stun chance and so on. This is probably quite optional. It makes it cost more mana, but why not? And again, if someone has a good tip for a last support, I've not found anything useful, then please let me know. And yeah, that was it for the shield and all the skills. And now the most exciting part, the passive tree. I've made some changes here, managed to optimize the weapon swaps to get even more of the curse nodes. I have done some really sneaky trickery with weapon swap points which you might not even see for the poison nodes in one of the builds. It was not necessary in this one, but the Tailwind build to fix it up. More on that version later. So, starting off with the weapon swap. And remember, you have to set your despair to only cast in set, in this case, 1. So set 1 has all the nice curse buffs for free. Simply pick the stats you lack in your weapon swap. Just flip them around until both sets match your needs. And here I managed to grab all the curse stuff here. 4 full clusters of curses by spending 1 extra point here, which must be worthwhile. Also managed to grab an extra jewel up here. All of the things that do not matter are on the weapon swap for the bow, such as attacks, which you will only use when you actually have the bow up. Kite Runner, Staggering Palm, all of those are on the weapon swap. Some of the crit have to mix and match a bit here to perfectly align everything. This is fully optimized for level 100. this attack node as well, and the crit nodes that do not give stats. So it is a bit complicated, but I'm sure anyone following this build knows how the weapon swap works. You just have to pay attention to exactly what's on the weapon swap. Otherwise, it's very similar to the previous build. Scaling only now the best critical chance nodes because of Maligaros. Dropped all of the critical damage nodes such as Cooked and Throatseeker, and instead had lots of points to spend on other things. If you do not like as much defense, you can drop these nodes and take whatever is highest damage according to the power report. One strong candidate is also to drop points and go for companion. In this version I did not put it, but I did add it in the Tailwind version, which we will get to now. So, the Tailwind version. This is the fanciest thing you can have if you like the highest damage, the highest speed, and do not mind sacrificing some defense. There are a couple changes here. Of course, the black insignia. This only gives you Tailwind on crit, and do note this doesn't work in PoB. So, but because we have Maligaros and really high crit chance, this will be very consistent. When trying it at lower gear level, it can feel like, yeah, it doesn't stack, but with this kind of crit, it will be consistent. So, it's basically the same gear. Had to shuffle around some stuff, had to get a pair of energy shield boots in order to have enough energy shield for Ghost Dance to do its work. But you see, with good gear, there's absolutely no problem reaching more energy shield than needed for Ghost Dance to fully proc. Almost 2k energy shield here with 1.7k life, which is plenty tanky. It's similar to what I grind now within SSF, and I perhaps die once a day or so. Not hardcore recommended, this build for sure with the Tailwind. And in the tree, it frees up some points because you no longer have Subterfuge Mask. And with those points, and since this helm can quite reliably be bought with Spirit, I added the companion for Haste Aura. You might or might not need those last 2 points. That depends on your Spirit. You can have a body with Spirit. It's a very good choice, because losing the last roll of hybrid evasion is not that big a deal. Evasion has such heavy diminishing returns anyway that losing one roll on one item for Spirit is perfectly fine. And having the extra Haste Aura or Unholy Might combo or whatever you choose with your last Spirit is really good. There are other choices as well. As usual, use the power report. Even with full mirror tier gear-ish that this is, the quiver node simply does not pop up on the top of the list. So I think they were nerfed so hard for this kind of build that they will simply never be usable. With that said, I hope you enjoy, and if there are any questions, or more importantly, if you have suggestions for improvements, please let me know, because I really want to make this perfect. And this is the best I could do during a full night of internet downtime. So yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know if anything, and I'll try to answer any questions on stream.